did finance them. I wouldn't say totally controlled them, but had them infiltrated, built them up, told them to invade areas of Europe, used the Nazis to create the crisis to offer the UN world government solution. And, of course, Hitler wanted a world government as well and, really brought in the modern Olympics as we know it. But now it's the New York Times last week or 2 weeks ago. Oh, more Nazis than we thought brought in. It turns out Simon Wiesenthal and all that stuff, it was just a show. They track a few little low-level guys, but all the real top Nazis, they weren't just protected. They were put in positions over everything because they were ruthless. They believed in eugenics. They would do what they were told. So, of course, you wrote Rise of the Fourth Reich. And, man, I tell you, now it's coming out, mainstream news about the Bushes and the Nazis.
Yeah, it's all turning out to be all too true. But let me tell you something that I did not stress, I don't think, hard enough in my book, The Rise of the Fourth Reich, and that you're going to really resonate with. And that's with, we all know that Wall Street, the City of London, these wealthy Western bankers and financiers, they bankrolled Hitler and the Nazis. They created them, okay? So then, wait a minute, why do we have to fight World War II to stop the Nazis? What happened there? Well, let me throw this at you. When Hitler took over Germany in January 1933, economically it was on its knees. Half the country was out of work. Inflation was eating them up. Hyperinflation. We remember the stories about how these Germans had to take wheelbarrow loads of cash just to buy a loaf of bread. Okay, in 2 years, Hitler had turned that completely around. Okay, and by the 1936 Olympics of 1936, the Berlin Olympics, Germany was a showcase of economic strength and viability. Why? Okay, how did that happen? Because here's where Hitler made his greatest mistake. He did not borrow debt-entangled money from the international bankers. He created his own money through the Deutsche Bank, the Reichsmarks, and he used this state-issued money to then pay off people working on public projects like the Autobahn, building big buildings and stuff. Everybody got a job. He put everybody back to work. Everybody got a paycheck. They were spending their paychecks. Money was flowing through the economy, and they became very prosperous. The international bankers could not let that continue to exist because then every other country, like the United States, which now is awash in debt, and we can't seem to do anything because we're $14 trillion in debt, they had to stop Hitler. And in fact, I did quote in my book, The Rise of the Fourth Reich, Winston Churchill, who said, quote, "You must understand that this war is not against Hitler or National Socialism, but against the strength, meaning the economic strength, of the German people, which must be smashed once and for all, regardless of whether it's in the hands of Hitler or a Jesuit priest." Okay, in other words, they weren't against National Socialism. They're pushing that in this country right now, but they did not want Germany leading the financial economic order.
Well, that was the same reason for World War I on record.
Right. Exactly. It all goes back to the money, but it's not just money per se. It's the control and power that money brings.
Well, it's the controlling of the issuance of currency and credit. I want to get your take on the time we've got left in this segment. I want to come back and get into a WikiLeaks that you've been hot on the trail of. I want to get your perspective on that and a lot more on what's happening with the $1 trillion conspiracy, your New York Times best-selling book. But what's your take on the TSA overall?
Oh, listen, this is an agency we need to do away with. This is just insane. Let me tell you something. We're coming right off of talking about Hitler and the Nazis. The Gestapo was bad enough. If they got you in their clutches, they would take you to their underground dungeons, and they would commit unspeakable acts, okay? But even the Gestapo, even the SS, even Hitler's Nazis did not have the audacity to try to strip down and grope the genitals of the German people or the Europeans of the 1930s and 40s. They knew they wouldn't be allowed to get away with that.
And the government always wants more. If they get away with this, what's next? Well, we know federally funded warrantless blood draws on the side of the highway.
Right, and by the way, I've got to hand it to you, Alex. Every time I'm looking for the cutting edge of the news, those stories that are being downplayed by the mainstream media, but that are so important to understanding of what's going on in the world. And every time I find one of these stories, inevitably it tracks back to InfoWars or Prison Planet. You're doing a great job.
Well, God bless you. That's why the mainstream media and COINTELPRO are after us 24/7. But God takes everything and turns it into a blessing. We want them to continue the attacks. They're bringing us all these new listeners. God bless them.
Forget everything you've been told about long-term food storage. When all hell breaks loose, you'll need the single most effective way to get high-powered Delta Force nutrients to your family fast. Like any Special Forces commando, you need a plan. You need a Black Hawk Down food plan. Introducing the Survival Sprout Bank from Solutions from Science. It's your countertop survival garden. Yes, grow fresh greens right on your countertop in just a few short days. Sprouts are the green shoots that emerge from newly germinated seeds, and they are powerhouses of living, easily absorbed nutrients. The Survival Sprout Bank is a complete kit with nothing else to buy. And with sprouts so easy to grow, even children can grow emergency food. Call 877-327-0365 or go to survivalsproutbank.com. That's 877-327-0365 or order online at survivalsproutbank.com. Survival Sprout Bank, your Black Hawk Down emergency food plan.
On the average, Americans work between 45 to 50 years, hoping to build up enough wealth to retire and live out their golden years. Unfortunately, with taxation, the rising cost of food, energy, housing, and medical, many retirees are forced to live below the poverty line. Is this a flaw free enterprise, or is our monetary unit we call the Federal Reserve Note forcing us into perpetual debt, ensuring inflation and higher taxes? These questions and more can be answered by reading G. Edward Griffin's book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Congressman Ron Paul states it's what every American needs to know about central bank power. A gripping adventure into the secret world of international banking cartel. Hi, this is Ted Anderson. I will give a silver dollar from the early 1900s to anyone who purchases this book. Call 1-800-686-2237 and order a copy today. It's critical that the public be made aware of the system. Call and order your copy today at 1-800-686-2237. That's 1-800-686-2237.
A very wealthy U.S. citizen is predicting that in 2011, we will witness the most important day in America in more than 50 years. He says it will change everything about our lives. The way you shop, travel, invest, educate your children, and even how you take care of your health and your own family. Now, this man has made some outrageous predictions over the years. The crazy part is, he's usually right. You see, he predicted the collapse of GM, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and America's biggest mall owner, General Growth Properties. In fact, Barron's called his work a dire prophecy. Recently, he created a video, which you can watch online for free, detailing his biggest and most important prediction yet. And it's a real eye-opener. I can't stress this enough. You should at least watch this free video online today. He explains everything you need to know, including simple steps you can take to protect yourself. You can find the video at www.endofamerica3.com. That's endofamerica3.com. Watch the free video at www.endofamerica3.com. That's endofamerica3.com.
Go solar for cheap. Want to use solar power but the price is too high? Now you can build your own solar panels for less than $200 at 123cheapsolar.com. Don't laugh. We've sold over 45,000 solar do-it-yourself kits. Watch the step-by-step videos that even non-handyman types can use. We offer a 60-day money-back guarantee. Go to 123cheapsolar.com or call 800-713-0486. 800-713-0486. Reduce your foreign oil dependency when you go green with 123cheapsolar.com.
We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Hi, Ted Anderson. I'm placing a silver dollar in a book explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Mars is our guest. Great to have him with us. Started out at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram as a criminal beat reporter driving around with a police radio. He was reporting, back during the JFK assassination. He taught the first course in college on the JFK assassination from the conspiracy perspective. And now look at the polls. Upwards of 90% today say the official story of the JFK assassination is a fraud and a lie. Before we get into the WikiLeaks, the other issues I raised, Jim, in this short segment, what do you think of Judge Andrew Napolitano, Geraldo Rivera, all these other people coming out and saying they don't believe the official story of 9/11? That has got to really scare the system that their big enchilada, their big event is being exposed.
I know, it's incredible. Everything, we touched on the TSA thing, which is just absolutely incredible, and everything else that's going on. And, of course, the wars are continuing in Afghanistan and Iraq, and then the guys are coming back. They're going to have Gulf War Syndrome 2, 3. It's just everything. And the money that's being siphoned out of the system, and it all goes back to 9/11. But, Alex, let me tell you something. Having lived through the Kennedy assassination and then dealt with that for so many years, for about 15 years after the Kennedy assassination, which was November the 22nd, 1963, for 15 years, it was just considered impolite to even bring it up and discuss it in decent company. You just weren't supposed to talk about it. And I submit to you, Alex, that we are in a somewhat similar situation today with 9/11. You're just not supposed to talk about it. And if you do bring it up, then you must be some kind of conspiracy kook. But let me tell you something. Just like the Kennedy assassination, 9/11 is not going to go away, okay? Because the evidence, the questions, the inconsistencies, the anomalies, they make the Kennedy assassination look like truly a deep, dark mystery. And today, as you well know, because you and I both have looked deeply into the Kennedy assassination, in general sense, the details we don't know, but in a general sense, anyone who studies it can now know exactly what happened in the Kennedy assassination, which was a coup d'etat in the United States. But it makes that look like a really deep mystery compared to the in-your-face evidence concerning 9/11. And so they can't keep it hidden forever. And Geraldo and others, Janet Napolitano, hey, 6 out of the 10 9/11 commissioners have stated that, raised questions about 9/11. In fact, last year, in a book entitled The Ground Truth by John Farmer, and John Farmer is not a conspiracy.
He was the head lawyer on the commission.
He was the head lawyer. He was the senior counsel. And he says, quote, in the course of our investigation in the national response to the attacks, the 9/11 Commission staff discovered that the official version of what had occurred that morning, that is, what government military officials had told Congress, the Commission, the media, and the public about who knew what and when, was almost entirely and inexplicably untrue. Now, that's the head of the 9/11 Commission.
Amazing information, and I do what you just did all the time. Janet Napolitano has not come out for 9/11 Truth. It was Andrew Napolitano.
Right.
And I do the same thing all the time. He always jokes and calls her his cousin, though she's not his cousin. So what are they going to do as the majority of the public is beginning, and polls show this, to wake up to the fact it's an inside job? What are they going to do next time when they need to blow something up to pose as our saviors? This has got to really be hurting the globalists right now.
Well, it's going to pose them a huge problem when they try to pull off their next false flag operation, because just like the Kennedy assassination, 9/11 hit us in the face like a wet rag. The American public was just not prepared for that, and it was such a shock, such a trauma, that, it took us a while to gather our senses. But I think more and more people are going to be on the lookout next time, and they're not going to be able to pull something like that quite as easily.
I agree. That's why they're going with patsies now, where they find mentally ill teenagers, drug them up, get them on airplanes, try to get them to blow up Christmas trees,
right.
and even mainstream media.